Someone's in the kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen, I know.
Okay, so now the ginger ale or the ginger beer, I use those two terms interchangeably, has cooled somewhat. It's still fairly warm, so we have to be careful because for the yeast, we're going to add the yeast now or get the yeast started, and with the yeast, the temperature of the liquid really has to be just a lukewarm body temperature, or else it'll kill off the yeast. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ladle off about a half a cup of liquid, and I'm going to strain it into the bottom of the jug, probably a cup of liquid, just to give the yeast something to start. Because I'm making a double batch, I need 7 grams of yeast, and I'm going to divide it into 2, so it'll be about 3.5 grams of yeast in the bottom of each bucket. And as I said, you've got to play around with your yeast a little bit because yeast will react differently, different altitudes, different temperatures. Looks like I'm putting a lot more in here, but this is a half teaspoon measure, and I'm just trying to divvy it up to come out equally. All right, so just a week in there and letting it sit for about, well, we're going to hope that in about 20 minutes it will have started to froth and foam, and as soon as it's frothed and foamed, we're going to strain off the rest of the ginger ale and fill up our buckets. So we're going to let this sit for about 20 minutes and come back. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes, and you want to make sure that your yeast is actually live. You haven't killed it by putting it in liquid that's too hot or too cold, so you should be seeing some bubbling and foaming. It should smell nice and yeasty. So now I'm going to take these over to the sink, and this is a little bit tricky because now we're going to strain our liquid into the jugs. So put your strainer on top. I do it in the sink just because in case of spills it's easier. So we've got our lukewarm, cooled ginger ale mix, and we're going to pour carefully through the strainer into the jug. And you want to squeeze out all the nice flavors that are going to be still in that ginger mash and lemon mash. So we're going to get it into the strainer, and you're going to squeeze it out, all those nice flavors that are still there. And I wish you could smell it. It is divine. All right, so now you're going to take a look at this. You're going to give it a little stir, and now you're going to, this is the part where you're going to keep an eye on it for the next 8 to 12 hours. You can stir it once in a while. I usually do this overnight. It's now evening. I'm going to leave it to sit overnight. I might stir it in another hour. And then by morning, what you want to see is you want to see a little bit of fizz happening. And then you'll know it's time to bottle it. You're going to cover it loosely. You want to make sure it gets a little bit of air. So one of these jugs, a juice jug, make sure you leave it a little bit open. Set it aside, room temperature, and you're going to leave it for 8 to 12 hours and let it start to ferment a little bit. Okay, so it's the next morning. This has been sitting for, I guess, about 10 hours, and if you come and look, you'll see what you want is these nice little fizzy bubbles. The next and almost final step is, as I said, you need to have one plastic bottle, because what we're going to do now is we're going to put the ginger ale into the bottles. We're going to strain it one more time, and then we're going to let it sit at room temperature until it continues to ferment a little bit. And the plastic bottle will let you feel, when you feel like it should be good and hard, then you know it's time to put it in the fridge right away, because if you leave it here too long at room temperature, what would happen is the pressure would build up and these would explode right out. So you can't tell how the pressure is building up in this kind of bottle. So you take your strainer, a little bit of a balancing act here, and you're going to strain it one more time into the bottle. And you want to fill it up almost to the top. You leave about 1 inch or 2.5 centimeters of airspace between the lid and the top of the liquid. And depending on the temperature of the house, the time of year, the concentration, the yeast that you've used, the alignment of the stars, this process can take anywhere from 8 hours till you want to refrigerate it to 3 days. So we're basically going to close it up. And if you feel now, I can push in fairly easily. And you want to monitor this, as I say, because if you let it sit for too long and this gets rock hard, you're going to have a real mess and an explosion on your hands. And that's what you're monitoring. You want to make sure that when it gets hard, then you know it's time to put these in the refrigerator and stop the fermenting process. So we're just going to continue to fill our bottles, straining, filling almost to the top, and leaving them at room temperature. And we'll come back and check these in about 8 hours or so and see if we're ready to refrigerate. Okay, so it's actually only been 5 hours, and if we press on our bottle, you can see the pressure has already built up quite a bit and it's quite firm. So I would say this ginger ale is actually already ready to put in the fridge, because as soon as you want the fermentation to stop, you want to chill it. So we're going to put this in the fridge now and let it sit for 2 or 3 days, and then hopefully we'll have a nice glass of homemade ginger ale to try. So now let's go and do the taste of our ginger ale. It's been resting in the fridge for a few days, and let's see how it is. Alright, now I usually do this near the sink, because if our ginger ale is going to be super fizzy, sometimes it can overflow. So we're going to pop it open near the sink. To open this kind of bottle, if you're not used to it, you're going to put your thumbs on the top and your index fingers on the bottom, and the bottom you're going to pull it forward and push. You're going to pull the bottom, push the top. And you're going to get a nice pop. And let's take a look at our homemade ginger ale. Nice fizz. Now a little sediment, you're still, even though you've strained it, you're still going to get a little bit of sediment. So when you pour it like a beer, very slowly down the side of the glass. And that is really tasty. Very refreshing. Of course you can add ice if you like, and a little bit of lime. You can also make a dark and stormy, which is dark rum and ginger ale, ginger beer drink, which is a really nice summertime drink. Oh my gosh, that is so refreshing. It's addictive. Would you like a glass?